The St. Louis Blues have found yet another star, as one prospect in particular is taking the KHL by storm. We're going to break down exactly who this is and the implications he has on the future of this team, as well as one other player in particular that will be on the St. Louis Blues this season that will have a major impact on what success looks like for the Blues this season, with the expectations being taken up a notch from last season. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Blues Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with your St. Louis Blues as the season creeps closer and closer to starting, go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and Mark Pi and I will keep you updated the whole season on everything that's happening with the St. Louis Blues. This is the place to be for all your daily Blues content. But let's jump right into it. We have some interesting storylines to get into today, including another player that is a Blues prospect that is taking the KHL by storm. And stop me if you've heard this before, because we talked about another one a couple days ago, but this is Matvei Korotky, and I believe that's how it's pronounced. And he's a 7th round draft pick, and he's off to a very hot start in the KHL, very similar to a couple other prospects that we've been covering all summer as well. He has 6 points in his first 7 games and is now officially skating on the second line of his team at just 19 years old. And I have to say, it's very difficult to put up points in the KHL in general, unless you're an elite talent. But not only that, as a young player, they do not trust young players. It's not like the NHL. And even the NHL, sometimes it's hard, right? So they do not necessarily trust young players, but he is putting on a show, and he looks very dynamic so far. As you saw in the intro, some of the goals that he's put together so far this season, he looks like he is going to be an absolute stud. And let's take a look at some other reports. You can see they were down 2-0 the other day. He stormed back. He had 2 goals. He tied the game, and he's put up almost a point a game so far in the KHL. So he's looking very, very good. He's gone from a long shot to a legit prospect, a 7th round pick. And, Mark and I talked about it in our last video yesterday that, there's a lot of teams right now, NHL teams, that are picking some guys from overseas, whether it's Russia or anywhere in Europe. Maybe a little bit later now, because there's been so much made out of, a couple seasons ago, Matvei the Flyers picked him. We won't see him for years when he finally comes over to the NHL. Well, that didn't necessarily happen in that case, but that's been a thing that I think some NHL teams are worried about, and they're starting to, select more North American skaters, even if the skill isn't necessarily there, right? So that is something that I think has changed a little bit, and now you're able to get some of these guys that are going to blossom into legit prospects over in the KHL, in the lesser rounds, maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th round, or the later rounds, I should say. So again, his rise is a classic underdog story, and you can see this. He was drafted 211th overall in 2024. Really raw talent, and a lot of teams like to draft on that because you can put certain things together as long as you have the talent. In the Russia MHL, the junior league, he posted 38 points in 51 games and 14 points in 18 postseason games. You know how hard it is to score in the playoffs, so those are very encouraging numbers, and that earned him KHL and VHL looks, setting the stage for a breakout 2024-25 season, which was last year. And you can take a look here that he had a pretty good year in terms of numbers and point production as an 18-year-old in the KHL last year. He played 30 games and he had 9 points, which is not horrible, but you can see this year, looks like, you want to talk about a breakout, looks like he's arrived on the scene. He has 6 points in 7 games, 3 goals, 3 assists so far. And you can see his numbers speak for themselves in the rest of the, the junior leagues that he's played in and coming up through the ranks and stuff like that. But he looks like he's going to be a solid prospect, another one for this St. Louis Blues team. So we'll keep tabs on him all season as well. Of course, we're going to have our hands full with everything that's happening with the Blues all season, and it is preseason, so we're going to be talking about some of these guys right now. But this is, I think, very exciting. Matvei Korotky is going to be a pretty good player for this organization. We'll see if he's able to put everything together and how the rest of this season goes, but very encouraging numbers so far by all accounts. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about today is one player that was acquired this offseason that will be making a significant difference for the Blues and determining, to be honest, what success looks like for this team. Because if there is injuries throughout the year, even if there isn't, once the playoffs come, this team is a lot deeper. It is. And they added Pius Suter last offseason, or this season, I should say, heading into this season. And this is from Lou. And he said that this is a direct quote from Suter, and he said, it's also a team that went to the playoffs last year, so it's exciting, and you want to help them take another step. And of course, talking about the St. Louis Blues, they took a ginormous step forward last year in terms of whatever you want to call it, a retool, a rebuild. Well, the Blues are back on the scene. They have arrived. There are playoff aspirations again this year. I wouldn't say that was the case at the start of last season, but there is this season that, the expectation is make the playoffs and make some noise. And for Suter, it's obvious he was not returning to the Vancouver Canucks, so that meant searching for something else. He comes to the St. Louis Blues with a very interesting opportunity, at least I think, this season, because he's kind of penciled into that third line position right now, like a third line center, right? Which I think he'll be great at. He's a Swiss Army knife, no pun intended, we've been talking about on the channel the whole time. But he could, it looks like he could make that jump to the second line center. And I don't hate Schenn on the third line. And I do think that the second line that's pictured here right now on your screen of Holloway, Schenn, and Kyrou had great analytics, right? Advanced analytics, all of those things. You could keep them together. But I think Suter would be a very interesting dynamic up there as well. I think you have a little bit more speed there, and he can do a little bit more right now than Schenn, I think, at least offensively, just based on what we saw last year with a career season. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing in terms of line combinations. They're playing with so many things right now, and we know that, Montgomery and so many other coaches like to work in pairings, so that's what's happening right now, obviously, but I'm interested to see what happens down the line here and how they utilize him, and if he plays on the wing, he can also play on the wing. I don't think that's very likely. I think you want to solidify, yourself as a team down the middle, which they've certainly done that through this offseason, which is exactly what you want to do. If you have center depth in the playoffs, you'll find success, that's for sure. So Suter said, I did the homework when I talked to them. I had a great feeling what they seen for me as a player. Obviously, the fit there in Vancouver, maybe not that great of a fit anymore. He's looking at other teams. Maybe, how does he fit into their lineup? I feel like with the Blues, he has a great opportunity. So that's probably why he picked the Blues. Great contract for the Blues as well. And, once that's up, some of the younger guys are going to be coming up. I would imagine Dvorsky at some point is going to be a second line center in this league as well. So he went on to say that the organization is well organized. They play hard. They're structured. As you can see in the playoffs, just a really, really good overall team. They know what they're doing. I just felt like it was a good fit, and hopefully I can help them take another step. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do. And Blues captain Brayden Schenn said you can just tell he's reliable. Practicing is always tough because everyone's in the perfect position at all times. On majority of days, everyone looks good. Where guys, obviously separate themselves is in the game. Obviously looking forward to playing with him, and obviously a huge piece for us that's going to play 200 feet for us. That's the other thing. This is a very responsible player. I'm excited to see what Suter can do up the middle for this team this season. You can see here, his numbers from the last couple of years, like I mentioned, career year last year with 46 points in 81 games for the Vancouver Canucks, and had some really good seasons in the past too, but obviously missed some time. He only played 67 games last year. So I think that's going to be interesting to see, can he put together another healthy season? So we'll see how that plays out for Suter and the St. Louis Blues. And like we've been talking about, injuries are going to happen. And if they do, you can call up Dvorsky. He can play center. I do think you probably start some of these guys on the wing like a Stenberg, right? If they are called up to the NHL. But at the end of the day, they are natural centers, and they should be playing center at some point in the NHL. So let me know in the comments how you feel about some of the prospects the Blues have, because it seems like they have an embarrassment of riches per se at this point, whether it's the KHL, the AHL, the OHL, the CHL, the college route, the NCAA, all of that stuff. Seems like they have so many good prospects that they can keep and continue to develop, or even trade for a player in a position of need, which is kind of what they did with Mayu as well. A sneaky good trade there this summer. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Let me know how you feel about that in the comments, how you see Suter fitting into this team, what you think his role is going to be. Let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything going on with your St. Louis Blues.